Nation. We're back.
Welcome back to another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan, and we are Fire the Cannon.
Boom. See, how come sometimes it's so quiet and sometimes it's so loud?
You love that cannon fire, man. You go off with that thing.
It's always a mess. All right. Megan, South by is crazy. Lots happening in Austin. This is the time. Well, it feels like it's always the time of year where everything's happening. Sports are always on campus. South by is happening. And we're going to talk all about it, all the things, women's basketball, men's basketball with a win today, all the things. But we have a special guest, Megan. Do you want to introduce our special guest?
We do. We're very excited today to have Danny Davis of the Austin American Statesman join us. Danny, thank you so much for being on. How are you doing, my friend?
Welcome.
I'm great. I'm glad you all think I'm hip enough to talk South by and all that stuff. We'll see how that goes.
Are you a big South by fan, Danny?
What was that?
Are you a South by Southwest fan? Do you partake?
I've gone a few times, done done the interactive stuff and gone to some sessions, gone to a show or two. But for the most part, I don't like crowds and I don't like places where I don't have parking. So I'm not really going to go mess with South by that much.
The parking
that's fair.
Time. Yeah,
that's fair. I feel like this is definitely the time of year that I feel like an old lady. You know what I mean? Like South by is in town. We're good to go. All these young hooligans are in town and with the expo and with music. And I have no idea what's going on. And also I'm like, I'm from Austin. I can see live music pretty much anytime. Do I really need to fight all these people, all this traffic, all of this stuff to get down there? I don't know. I get a little grumpy about it sometimes myself. Rocky, How about you? Are you a big South by fan?
I'm the same as you. When you live in Austin, and I don't have fancy badges to get into things. I don't, I don't know. It's one of those things where you find out like, oh, last night the Beastie Boys were playing at some taco house. Like, what? How do people know these things? I don't know. I miss them all. I don't know. It's too expensive. It's very crowded, but I did do a very special South by event today. I have to share this. I told everybody last week that I was going to go to this one event. And I went today, and it was the Selena y los Dinos documentary premiere. It was a culmination of just years of behind the scene, never before seen footage of Selena and the band Los Dinos. And the most amazing thing was there was a panel of, before the director's there and she introduces the film, and there was a panel of the family, the family, like, everyone Selena, her husband, Chris Perez, and Suzette, the sister, and the band members, Rick and Pete, AB, the famous brother, producer, writer, everything. He wasn't here today. I don't know why, but he wasn't here. But even the parents were there. Abraham and Marcela were there in the crowd. It was if you're a big Selena fan and followed the family over the years, it was a pretty special event. And so it was pretty exciting to see the movie. And eventually they said it'll come out in some kind of streaming, but that was special South by event that I actually got to do. So that was pretty
very cool.
Yeah,
very cool. Yeah, I've actually the company I'm working for now, Uplift Desk, we've got a booth down at the expo. So I've been down there since Friday, like setting up, getting the booth going, capturing some content for our socials and all the marketing stuff. So for me, that's plenty. Like, it's nice to see behind the scenes, but after working the event for a while, like I said, I think I'm just in that old lady mindset. Like, I'm over it.
Do you have any South by events you're going to catch, Danny?
No. I will be staying up here in Cedar Park away from the chaos and the madness, and I'm more than fine with that. If that's your thing, all power to you. I'm not holding any judgments, but that is just, I'm too old for that at this point. And the gray in the beard says it all.
All of us shaking our canes right now. I love it. Well, Danny, I can also appreciate with the schedule you have coming up and the coverage that you've been going, like, I can appreciate any time that you have for downtime, spend time with some family. I bet you're gonna take that. So with that, let's jump right on in. You've been running around. We got some fun stuff to talk about. We enjoy everybody being here. We appreciate you. So let's kick it off with a little bit of Texas women's basketball talk. How's that sound? Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right. All right. So Yeah, man. I mean, we would love to hear just your perspective of things. You've been on the Texas beat for a while. You've been back and forth. You've seen this women's team grow. So what are some of the growth and experiences that you've seen with Texas women's basketball over the years?
Yeah, I guess my first year was Karen's last year. So some of this comes a little bit with an asterisk because Vic's first year would have been the pandemic season when
Right.
playing in an empty Irwin Center with cardboard fans and all that.
Oh yeah.
Because they didn't have a choice. But then, his first couple of years were when the doors were open and they were struggling to get fans in. And Vic, it'll always stand out to me. Shay Hawley was a sophomore, I believe, at the time, and she said in the press conference that she had more fun playing on the road because, sure, there are a lot of people in the crowd that hated Texas, but the crowds were full, and she liked playing in packed houses and stuff like that, and she wasn't getting that at home. And, a lot of Texas fans get really offended when you brought that up and kind of made fun of them for not showing up. But it was the truth. That was the, God honest truth.
Sure.
Part of that, the Irwin Center, part of it was, the program was still kind of figuring itself out and getting going. But, this season, you've seen with a packed house on the Super Bowl Sunday to see them play South Carolina, good crowds throughout the season for some of the teams that weren't a South Carolina, weren't an LSU, but there's still a pretty good crowd. Vic, he's still doing that 10K for 10K thing, but he's not having to bribe fans to show up to see his products because people are excited about this team. This is a good team. It's a good product to watch. Maybe not so much in the SEC championship game, but for the most part, this is a really fun and exciting team to watch. And just the excitement that was there now as opposed to Karen's last year. The Stanford game was a lot of fun on, I think it was December 21st that year, a couple days before Christmas. But aside from that, I think people are kind of tired of that regime, ready for what's next and kind of tuned out. And Vic and his players, to their credit, have brought a lot of excitement back to Texas women's basketball. And especially since this men's program isn't doing diddly squat, this is a program for, these fans to be proud of during the winter.
I like that you mentioned about how much excitement there is and how they're drawing eyes. You tweeted this, I guess, a couple days ago about that the Texas women are one of the most watched programs in the country, right? Of all of college women's basketball, 2 of the top 3 games viewed, for ESPN in the last 16 years, you say were Texas games. How have you seen that? Like because of there's excitement, more people watching on TV, back in the crowd. How do you think that just reciprocal, like the fan base and supporting the team and how that's helped the team perform better? Like just that cycle of support and production.
Well, I'm sure all of us in any walk of life, whatever our job is, when you have support, when you have people backing you and you have people excited about, I know when I write a story that people are going to read, maybe I put a little bit extra effort into it, or maybe I'm a little bit more enthused to write it as opposed to throwing something together that 2 people are going to read, that you're just doing it to kind of check a box. There's a difference, and that goes for basketball too. People love going off in front of crowds. They love playing in front of a lot of eyeballs and knowing that their friends, their family, people across the country, especially in this NIL era, are checking them out and watching what they do. And granted, those numbers that ESPN released in their press release are a little skewed because I don't think Juju played it all on ESPN this year. So I'm sure she had a couple of ESPN games. Maybe that would have cracked the top 3. But there's a lot of fear, I guess, going into the season about what's women's basketball going to do without Caitlin Clark. What's it going to do without Angel Reese in Texas and South Carolina with what Don's building over there, and what's going on the West Coast with UCLA and USC and some other Hannah Hidalgo over at Notre Dame. They've proven that there's good young stars in this game, and there's still reasons to tune in and watch some good basketball. So I think the numbers have shown that, and obviously I'm sure if you're a young lady looking at going to a school like Texas or something like that, you're excited about what the future of women's basketball is. And if you're a part of that right now, you're probably taking a lot of pride in what you've built and how, those numbers reflect you and your job. And so I'm sure you are pretty prideful of that.
Aaliyah Chavez,
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I hate to bring up a baseball quote here, but it's kind of like Field of Dreams, right? If you build it, they will come. If you build the product, people show up. It's there. So it has been really fun to watch. And I will say, Rocky and I, we've been at a few of the women's games here this year. And of course, we've watched the program grow. And man, the Moody is rocking. It is a fun atmosphere. So I wanted to ask you this, compared to, some of the games that you've been to on the road with Texas, comparing the Moody, how do you feel the Moody stacks up to other SEC schools, to schools around the nation, when it comes to women's basketball atmospheres?
I mean, it's tough to judge, I guess, sometimes, because like, I've been to Oklahoma, but that's Texas, Oklahoma. I've been to A&M, so that's Texas, Texas A&M. I mean, those are going to be,
Right.
really loud crowds that are, fired up and all that stuff and ready to go. You've been to Baylor, which obviously is a, in-state rivalry. So, I mean, sure, when Texas rolls into those in-state, places, it's pretty rocking. I don't know what it was like at Kentucky a couple weeks ago, if that was necessarily the same atmosphere, what they do up there. But obviously, Moody, I mean, it's a wonderful venue. Now that fans are showing up, I mean, they're cramming that place, and it gets so loud in there.
Yeah.
Like, I keep forgetting to bring earplugs. I need to, because I need to protect these things, but it gets so loud in there. And so, I mean, it definitely is a home field advantage. I think most coaches who could ask the question about it are genuinely appreciative of the environment that the Moody creates. Even someone like Dawn Staley, who is used to playing in front of 18,000 people at home. 10,000 people may seem kind of cute to her, but she knows what this place is like when it's loud and it's rocking. And I think she appreciated the Texas fans and the South Carolina fans that made the trip to Austin that weekend to see that game. So I think opposing coaches and players have liked what they've seen from the Moody Center. Obviously, Texas fans, if this is your home gym, you like it. And what I've seen on the road, Moody Center probably is comparable. Once again, Texas A&M is probably maybe on a Tuesday night in College Station when they're playing, I don't know, Florida. It's maybe not as rocking as it was when Texas rolled into town.
All right. I like that you mentioned the home field advantage and Dawn Staley in South Carolina, because this past weekend was the SEC tournament champion, right? We know that the women shared the season conference championship with South Carolina, having split, home and home wins with them. Then this past weekend, Texas, beat Ole Miss. They handled LSU again. Yes, that's amazing to beat Mulkey twice in a season. That's pretty fantastic. But then they came into a buzzsaw at South Carolina, and it felt like, obviously it was a pretty home court advantage for South Carolina. The 99% of the crowd on TV looked like South Carolina fans, or were pretty loud for them. Kind of like when the men's, back in the Big 12 days, the men's basketball tournament was a Kansas home crowd, right? What do you think about, like, the women, like you said, who was the player you said? Holly, was it? Who was the player that you said?
Shea Holly.
Yeah, Shea Holly loves going to the road environment, but now they have such a great home court. What was it like for them to be in that buzzsaw of South Carolina? It was pretty much a true road game for them, and having to do that for the championship game.
It was, but I mean, if we're being honest, if they played that game at the Moody Center, that would have been the exact same result. I mean, South Carolina played really well on Sunday, and Texas played awful. Texas, maybe the home field, swings it a couple points, but South Carolina was going to win that game if those two teams played the way that they played. And Texas, they beat LSU, but they did not look great the day before. And LSU was, by the time the game was over, was without their two best players. And Kim was going through her personal issues, so she wasn't fully Kim either. So it's not like Texas, beat a full strength LSU team by 30. I mean, that they kind of squeezed by, and then ran into a South Carolina team that just kind of gained some momentum. If they're on a neutral court and Texas is playing the way we know Texas can play, yeah, sure, Texas can beat South Carolina. We've seen it, but Texas played poorly, South Carolina played well, and I don't think the home field had that big of an impact. Sure, it was very loud, and it was the fans, because it was pretty much a home game for South Carolina. They had a lot of fun, but South Carolina was the better team on Sunday, and that would have been the same if they had played that game in Austin.
That's fair. So do you think there's any cause for concern as far as like Texas fans looking at this team? Is this a good time? Like, what's the silver lining that we can take from the way that Texas played?
The tournament starts in a few days.
I mean, there's obviously reasons to be concerned. I mean, Texas was, really struggled offensively against both LSU and South Carolina almost lost like a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter against Ole Miss. So definitely they had struggles, but the tournament's a different game. You're not playing 3 times in the span of 3 days. You do get a little bit of rest. You're not going to be playing. I guess once you get further in the tournament, you are going to be playing back-to-back ranked teams. But that first weekend, they're not going to be playing at LSU followed by South Carolina. So sure, there's reason to be concerned. I don't think you can go in completely into the tournament saying this Texas team is the favorite. But this Texas team has figured out. I mean, they won 15 straight games, so obviously they know how to win. You can maybe chalk Sunday off to just having a bad day, which is possible. I mean, South Carolina less than a month ago got destroyed by UConn. And South Carolina, I would argue, is probably the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. So you can have bad days. And it's just a matter of how you respond. They have a week to rest, which is something they need. They have a week to kind of figure out some of the offensive issues they've been having. And Vic seems pretty confident that they can figure those out. And he seems to, not be too concerned about their offensive struggles. So we'll see. So if I was a Texas fan, sure, I'd be a little concerned. But on the same team, this time it's a 31-3 team. They probably have the second best resume, I'd argue, aside from South Carolina and the entire NCAA tournament field. So you just kind of lean on your experiences, lean on your resume, and hope that they can figure it out for 3 straight weekends.
So it's looking like they should get a number 1 seed in the tournament. The tournament begins next Wednesday. Have the first 4 end games on next Wednesday, so a week from tonight. But one of the things that was really interesting that came out of this weekend, and as being someone who travels with the team and reports on the team, it was pretty interesting to see the students from the Daily Texan that they had drove to 16 hours to go to South Carolina to cover the weekend, the women's basketball over the weekend. And when Vic Schaefer was asked about that and did he know about the students that had traveled to cover the team, this is what he said.
So if I'm not mistaken, are y'all my 3 that drove 16 hours?
Yes, sir. No.
You 2, and who's the third one?
Charlie's over there.
I want y'all to know, when it comes time to get a job, you put me on your resume. That's really unique. And I'm proud that you guys are here, and I'm proud that you take enough pride in your job that you would do that, because you don't have to do that. And I think people need to know that. So thank you for being here.
Wow. What are your thoughts when you heard that?
Yeah, I'm really appreciative that Vic recognized these student journalists. And I think if you're in the media and you're around teams, regardless of the beat, I think the student journalists are probably the hardest working people on the beat. Like, they're at every game. Zach or Anna, who are the 2 beat writers for the Daily Texas women's basketball. I mean, one of them was at every single game. I was not at every single game. I mean, there's some games because of football that I missed. There's some, I think they played LaSalle, and I was just like, I'm not going to watch them beat a team by 80 points. I'd rather be home with my family. So there's some games that I don't go to. And that's just not the case of the Daily Texan. They're there at every game. Same thing goes with baseball. Same thing goes with softball. Same thing goes with football. But unfortunately, because these are 19, 20, 21-year-olds, a lot of people don't take them seriously. And that goes for the coaches. That goes for the SIDs. That goes for the fan base. I mean, they're kids. Sometimes they screw up because they're kids learning how to, be journalists and stuff like that. And, they aren't taken, seriously. They get, called on last in press conferences. Coaches don't bother to learn their name, all that stuff. So, I mean, it was nice to see Vic appreciate them and, point them out and give them a shout out. Because I can guarantee you, nothing against Rodney, nothing against Steve, nothing against Jim. That had been one of those coaches that would not have happened. Like, that was something unique to Vic, and Vic often preaches about the importance of coverage and stuff like that. Like, he'll give a shout out to a article in the newspaper if he liked it. He'll give a shout out if there's something in there that he didn't like. But he often speaks about just how much he wants coverage and wants attention on his program. And so when the kids are doing it and when they are driving 16 hours, like, it's nice to give them some exposure. Because I know when I was in college, that's part of the college experience, is getting in a car and driving to wherever the team is playing, and being a dumb college kid, because there's no way I'm going to drive 16 hours to go cover a basketball game, I'm getting on a plane, but that's part of the college experience. And so it was cool that, Vic just kind of recognized that. And that's a memory those, Zach and Anna are going to have forever. Charlie, their photographer. So I thought that was really cool. And I'm glad it's gained some traction, and hopefully they raised a little bit of money with that link that Vic tossed out. That's another thing. Those college newspapers are not as well funded as they were back in the day. So hopefully they raised a little bit of money out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the shout out. Every time I see Vic, Coach Schaefer talk about that kind of thing, like point out the kids, show some appreciation, talk about the coverage. It makes me feel like you get just the tiniest of glimpses of what his team sees, right? Like he's just a guy that genuinely cares. He comes off like, watching that clip made me feel like, oh, that's like my dad. Oh, I love it. Like he's looking out for everybody. He truly cares. And I just thought that was such a unique thing, and what a neat way to show appreciation. That was very cool.
And I think when he looks out and he sees, it was me, and it was the Daily Texan kids, and Lindsay Plotkin, who's also a Texas student, was writing for the Horns SI website. But that was the only local media that was there. So I think when he looks out there and he sees that, and he doesn't see the local TV stations, he only sees one person at the Statesman. We'll send like 4 people to a home game. Like, I think he appreciates that. Last year when they went to Portland, I was the only local reporter who went aside from Daily Texan. They sent 2. And so I think he recognizes that, and he appreciates that, and he knows if these kids and that newspaper are putting in the effort, he needs to show some appreciation, because they don't have to do that. They could be covering this game from their couch. They could be out there partying and doing other stuff that college kids do on a weekend in March, with spring break right around the corner. South by is going on in Austin, but they're driving 16 hours to South Carolina. So I was glad that he showed them the appreciation that they deserve, and hopefully the fans, other people within the Texas Athletic Department will do the same.
And to say, put me as a reference on your resume is huge, because it's one thing to say, oh, we drove to cover this game, which of course shows initiative and, sincerity about their passion for covering sports, right? That's one thing. But when you say, and you can call the head coach of the Texas women's team, and he can, give out for me that that I'm good at my job, or that I'm, passionate about my job, that takes it to a whole nother level. And for him to offer that was just so thoughtful and thinking out of the box, but really a way of showing really value, that he understood the commitment and the professionalism and, the get itness that they had to go do that. I loved it. I thought that was a really neat thing that happened this week in the press conference. So when we're looking at the seeds, we know the women have made it to the Elite 8 recently under Schaefer. Do you have any predictions? We know it all comes to the matchups and the announcements of the seedings and all that, and how the brackets lay out. But do you have a feeling of the ceiling for this team?
I mean, the ceiling is the national championship team. I mean, if they are on the top of their game, they can beat anyone. And I can say that because I think South Carolina is the best team in the country right now, and they've beaten South Carolina. So they can go toe-to-toe, beat anyone. It's just a matter of putting it together 2 back-to-back games for 3 straight weekends. And especially, if they make it to the Elite 8, Sweet 16, doing that in Birmingham against 2 really good teams, or doing it, in Tampa for the Final Four. So I don't know if I would necessarily go and place the money you should be putting on your mortgage on them at the whatever illegal betting website you want to use. But I do believe this is a team that everything's going right and they're playing to their capabilities. This is a championship team. It's just a matter of being consistent and doing it for 6 games over the next 3 weeks, which is one of the toughest tasks in sports.
Yeah. All right. So let's flip to inconsistent and probably not a championship. We got to talk about the men's basketball, and we're going to give them love, because today they avenged their loss to Vanderbilt in the SEC tournament. They were up by 15 at the half, on fire, making their free throws, getting in the paint, up big lead at the half. And then, of course, like good teams do, Vanderbilt fought back, but Texas did hang on to win by 5 points, 7 points, 79-72. And that means tomorrow the brackets so work out that tomorrow the Longhorns get to play the Texas Aggies, that's fighting Aggies tomorrow in the SEC tournament. That's at 2:30 tomorrow. But let's talk a little bit about the men's basketball, team. We saw Trey Johnson got all the awards, which kind of makes it even more frustrating that things didn't go. I'm going to show this. That things didn't go. They're not just rolling into the SEC, into the NCAA tournament, right? Like some people have them first four out, some people have them in the bubble, like all the things, but it doesn't look good. They have to really kick ass and take names in this SEC tournament. But we see Trey Johnson, men's basketball, SEC freshman of the year, all freshman team, and all SEC second team. So individually had a fantastic year, got the awards this week. So let's just ask you the question that everyone's asking. Rodney Terry, like, is the writing on the wall? Can he save his job? What if you have your educated opinion on that?
I mean, first, I do want to say the only men's basketball team I care about is the University of Montana, and we're playing for a March Madness bid tonight at 9:30 against Northern Colorado.
Oh, good luck.
Or 10:30, excuse me. So as soon as I jump off here, I'll be turning on the TV for that. But as far as Rodney goes, I mean, sure, he can save his job. I would assume if they make the tournament and make another run. But I think Chris proved last year when he fired David Pierce that there's a standard here at Texas, and not making the NCAA tournament is not that standard. If David Pierce is going to get fired for not reaching the Call of the World Series in 2 years, and people feeling that things are getting stagnant, I don't know why Rodney would be secure in his job. Now, granted, maybe they don't want to pay the buyout. Maybe they don't want to, maybe they do want to give him a little bit chance and, give him a chance to build something. But this is a new era. This is the NIL era. This is the, the revenue streaming era and stuff like that. Chris expects winners, and if you're not producing and there's no path forward for you to produce, then it's probably best for you to make a move. I think that goes for any coach, including the other sports on this campus. We just saw with baseball. That's really the only other example because all the other sports are winning. But I don't think if you're men's basketball and you miss the NCAA tournament, you can be surprised if they choose to make a move, regardless of how likable you are as a coach or how much good of a guy you are. But it is what it is. This is a business, and unfortunately, that leads to some firings. And I think I was really stunned last year when David got let go, but I think that's just kind of what this new era is. And if Chris feels this program is not moving in the right direction, he'll make a move, and we'll see if he does that in a couple of weeks. But the team gets to decide this. If you don't want your coach fired, win some games, get in the tournament, make a run, and this will all take care of itself.
Yeah, we can know on Sunday.
A little surprised to hear you say that. Yeah. I mean, a little surprised to hear you say this, that you were stunned with the Coach Pierce firing. I felt like that felt more and more like writing was on the wall, especially towards the end of the season when. And you brought this up, things had kind of stagnated, right? Like it felt like Texas had kind of hit the ceiling with where they were. Talking baseball, and it kind of feels like to me that's where this Texas men's basketball team is. It feels like, and this is just me speaking out. The games that I've watched, I've seen some really great games. We've seen a lot of fun basketball. We've seen some not so great games, But to me, it feels like there are 5 individuals on the court. Like that's where I struggle watching this men's basketball team, like especially when you compare them to the women's team. Just it feels like such a night and day difference. The women's team plays like a team. The men's team just feels like 5 individuals that aren't quite communicating well. They're not quite in sync. They're not quite running those plays well. And it seems like the team's going the wrong direction, right? That to me is would feel like the biggest indicator for what the future may bring for Coach Terry.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the David thing, I think I was just more surprised when he had 2 years left on his contract. And CDC had traditionally not really been pay a coach to go away kind of AD unless like there had just reached some breaking point with Tom or some off-court issues, with Chris Beard or the tennis situation where they didn't really have a choice. But I mean, that's the thing that just surprised me, that they just didn't play it out. And David, once again, went to Omaha 3 times in 7 years. So it wasn't like the program was completely stagnant. But, that last year was rough. And the assistant coach turnover, the pitching coach situation, the product on the field was not Texas worthy. So, I mean, you look at that just on its surface, it makes sense. And if you feel the basketball program is kind of the same, it's following the same trajectory, it's late, then you've got to make it, because if you don't think things are going to get better, there's no point stringing it along for another year or two, just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. So but that's why Chris gets paid a lot of money to make those decisions, and I'm just here talking for free.
Well, I will tell you, I was at the town hall, and that was one thing. I mean, he was asked point blank, like, what the situation was with Coach Terry. And I was pretty surprised, because usually, I mean, CDC is pretty good about, the PC answers and the kind of skirting issues if he needs to. He'll give you a real nice answer. But this one, I mean, he is about as blunt as he will be, when he said, look, like you said, Danny, the standard's a standard at Texas, and we evaluate all of these things at the end of the season. And, I will be evaluating all my coaches. And, that was kind of it. There wasn't this resounding like support. So to me, that definitely felt kind of ominous as far as how CDC normally talks. So.
Do you think if Texas doesn't make the NCAA tournament and they get maybe like an NIT bid or something, that Texas would just turn it down and shut it down for the season and handle business behind the scenes, probably with a new coach, start the new search for a coach? Or do you think they would play it out? And I mean, Trey Johnson doesn't really deserve to be in the NIT, but the team might still want to play. What do you think, if you were running this, seeing that going through, like if it was your decision, what would you do?
Honestly, I'd leave it up to the players. If the players want to play, let them play. They want to get a couple more games in, and whether it's the seniors who are about to go, one last ride, or some of the younger guys who need some reps, let them play it out. But if they're kind of checked out, and Trey wants to go, get ready for the next level and his next move, or you're going to project bring in a new coaching staff, maybe it's just best to turn that down and move on with life. But I don't really ever see the point, unless there's like just some complete dumpster fire, and you need to, you can still, if you wanted to fire Rodney, you can still have an interim coach lead them through the NIT. I don't see the negative aspect of getting free games to play, especially some that would likely be at home. We all know what happened a couple of years ago when they went to New York and won the NIT, and they acted like they won the Super Bowl. I mean, the athletic department did. So I don't see the negative of getting some games in and getting some more reps in, and giving some of these players who won't be here next year, a few more games to play with their guys and enjoy the college experience one last time. But once again, if everyone's kind of checked out and wants to move on, maybe just decline that invitation and figure out what's next.
All right, I have to show you this quick clip. So being a media person, sometimes I'm sure everyone phrases their question exactly how they wanted to phrase it. But this is a Baylor player, and he was asked a question by the media, and you can hear the question, and then listen to how he answers it.
How does Yale out-rebound Baylor?
You go up and grab the ball off the rim when it comes off, and then you grab it with two hands, and you come down with it, and that's considered a rebound. So they got more of those than we did.
How did Yale out-rebound Baylor? How does it feel? Have you ever asked a question like that where you got an answer like that?
I mean, I'm sure I have. I mean, I'm sure any veteran journalist has asked a dumb question or a poorly worded question. I think both sides need to be professional. I don't think either side was professional in that instance. I thought that was a real smart alecky answer, and was not necessary. But I'm assuming, if I remember correctly, Baylor lost that game, so I'm sure he wasn't in the greatest of mood, and the reporters being a little aggressive with his questioning. So he may have just kind of been, just kind of done with the situation. And sometimes you have to show grace when you're talking to these athletes who just, suffered a a loss like that. I assume that they're playing Yale is in the NCAA tournament. So I think both sides, if I remember that encounter correctly, could have done better and been more professional. But I think in this business, I'm going to ask dumb questions. I'm probably going to get answers that aren't, the most, the nicest answers, or short, or, have a little anger behind them. That's part of the business. But I think as long as everyone tries to be a little professional, you're fine. But I mean, it makes for a funny clip now and then. I'm sure the Baylor fans are all like, "Yeah, stick it to that reporter. That's our guy." But
it was pretty funny. I when I saw that clip, I'm like, I gotta show y'all. That was pretty funny. All right, so back to winning. Megan, I know this is Megan's space. I'm sure you follow closely too. Program. So let's talk a little baseball. We're just going to hop around all the Texas sports, back to some big winning. Megan, best start for Texas baseball since 2005. Let's get into it, girl.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I did want to pull up this comment by Miracle Martinez. Good to see you. How about that Texas baseball last night? Thankfully, we were able to pull out the win on those late innings. I was surprised it wasn't a blowout, yet the weather was great. Good times at the Dish. Yeah, it was perhaps a little closer than we wanted it to be, kind of going through the game. But I wanted to point out too here that Texas and Coach Schloss was certainly testing out. I mean, you can see him tweaking this lineup, trying some guys out. We saw Oliver Service get his first start there for the season. So excited there for him. Yeah. So definitely a lot of young guys were in. And I believe I saw a stat that it was like 23 of the 25 outs were by rookies. So a lot of pitching changes, a lot of new guys in. So when you've got games like that, you're trying out new things, and certainly right before you're jumping into SEC SEC conference play, you're gonna perhaps not have these giant blowouts and crazy scores that we've seen across the country. But I will say there was a point where you could tell Schloss was like, all right, enough of this crap. Galvan, you go in, because Chamberlain Service started at catcher. Chamberlain went in. Galvan came in. Yeah. And all of a sudden the bats heated up, and you could tell when Schloss was like, all right, enough tweaking. We're done. We're going to finish this game. Let's go. So, yeah, Texas pulled out that win
in the game
last night.
Don't panic. We were texting, and I'm like, oh, it's 3-3. And I said, it's okay. This is right about when the bats get hot. And boom, there it went.
Boom, bats went off. Yeah, it was great. So, yeah, I mean, it's exciting to watch this baseball team. Just like we cautioned early on, I'm going to caution again. It's not time to panic. Don't freak out when Texas loses the first game of the season. Since then, they've been on that hot 14-game win streak. But I'm also not gonna. I mean, this is not time to crown us, king princes of baseball right now either. No, not necessarily saying we're making the College World Series. This is when things get real tough. We're jumping into Mississippi State now. Danny, I wanted to ask you this: Have you been the duty? Have you been out to out to Mississippi State for baseball?
I have not. I think A&M is the only SEC ballpark I've been to. Yeah. So that's definitely been something I've missed out on. I thought I was going to get to go to Ole Miss in 2018, I think that was, but then they got upset by Tennessee Tech, and Tennessee Tech ended up coming to Austin for that super regional. But I have not gotten to tour many SEC ballparks. The travel budget for newspapers these days is not what it used to be. Not that
not quite.
with basketball going on right now, I don't know if I'd want to go to Starkville on my one free weekend that I have for a little bit. So I probably would watch that series from home regardless. But I've heard lots of good things. If you're making the trip, it's going to be a lot of fun. But also a lot of the fun stuff I can't do because I'm sober in the press box. So I couldn't be out there having fun with all the Texas fans, like and enjoying all the cool things that Starkville has to offer at baseball games.
Will you get to go to some games this season?
No, because A&M's coming here. I mean, I'll travel in the tournament. I'm assuming I'll go to Hoover for the baseball tournament in May. But I don't really push travel that much, especially during the regular season, because I'm a little bit of a homebody and I like being around my child. But once the postseason heats up, I'll definitely go. But next year, if they do a return trip to LSU, I'll definitely try to get on that trip because I've heard lots of good things about that. I want to hit that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said this before. I've actually been out to the box for LSU, Texas at LSU baseball. It's a lot of fun. Those LSU fans, they're serious about their baseball, and we had a great time when we were out there. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I feel like Texas fans and LSU fans are cut from the same cloth. We're like cousins. We just cook different, right? So I think that'd be an exciting trip for sure. So, it looks like right now Texas rising up in the ranks. I felt like it was pretty fair where we started off, but Baseball America has Texas up to number 9, as high as number 9. Are you feeling good about that, Danny? What are you taking a look at this? Is that a little surprising? You feel that's right for Texas, too high, too low? What are your thoughts?
I mean, they're 14-1, but who have they played? We'll find out these next couple of weeks where this Texas team should be ranked. They very well may be underrated. They very well may be overranked. Like, we'll find out in these next couple of weeks. The 14-1 start's impressive. I don't want to say they haven't beaten anyone because they did beat Ole Miss. They did beat a good Oklahoma State team. They went and swept that series in Las Vegas. But Dartmouth, Santa Clara, some of these midweek games aren't necessarily a murderer's row. So we'll see what they're kind of made out of these next couple of weeks, and I think then we'll have a more accurate assessment of where we should be ranking them, especially after next weekend when LSU comes to town.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And for those that
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, no, I think we were going in the same direction. Yeah, I mean, for those that haven't been paying too close attention, but hear us talk about how crazy this SEC schedule is, taking a look at this Baseball America current top 25. Again, we're early in the season, we're early on, but let's just take a gander at how many SEC teams are here. We've got Tennessee, LSU, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, OU, Texas. That's all within the top 10.
Alabama, A&M. Is this Mississippi State?
It is.
I don't know.
Alabama, A&M, Mississippi State, and Kentucky rounding out kind
Vanderbilt,
of towards
Ole
the
Miss.
bottom. Yeah, I mean, SEC ball is going to be absolutely brutal. There were some years that the Big 12 baseball really picked up. We've seen Oklahoma State, the Cowboys, they're consistently good. Skip Johnson has his OU team up and down there. But man, SEC play. Do you have any kind of feelings on what Texas is going to look like, Danny, moving into this? Any concerns? Any points that Texas fans need to brace for? Or do you think this is going to be a good old time?
I do think it's funny that the only Big 12 team on there is Oregon, which I don't consider to be a Big 12
Not
team.
a Big 12 team, right?
But, I mean, I'd be just concerned about the SEC and what the SEC is. If you talk to Jim, if you talk to, I'm sure any of these transfers who have played SEC ball too, it's just a different animal. I mean, I think Jim, when I asked him about it before the season, said one of the things is like, the ninth guy who is coming out of the bullpen on a Sunday, who in the Big 12, maybe some just fifth-year senior who's throwing is just a strike thrower. Like, he's the guy who's like primed to be the Friday starter the following year in the SEC. So it's just there's a lot more depth. There's a lot more talent. I think one of the stats he had was Jalen Flores last year at Texas saw X amount of 90-some-mile-an-hour fastballs throughout the last season. Jim, shortstop at A&M, looks out like 100 more. And these are players who played around the same amount of games, even though A&M went a little further. So it's just a different beast. I mean, that would be my concern for your Texas, is just adjusting to SEC play. It wasn't like Texas was going undefeated in Big 12 play the last couple of years. I mean, they were dogfights, and they win a couple regular season championships and then fall flat in the tournament. So now they had to go play in a tougher conference. So we'll see how they adjust, and it will be interesting to see what happens when they do hit that first bit of adversity, because they're not going to sweep every weekend. They're going to lose some series. It's going to happen. None of these teams, except for maybe Tennessee apparently, are going to go undefeated. So see what happens when this team loses and has to face a little bit of adversity and how they bounce back. They bounce back good when they lost to Louisville, won 14 straight games. What happens when they have a bad weekend? Can they bounce back, and what adjustments does Jim and his staff make? And so that's the thing. If I'm Texas, I'm concerned with. Right now, you're happy about the pitching. The offense kind of comes and goes, but that's baseball. But I think just adjusting to SEC play would be the one question mark I have going into this weekend.
All right. Well, they do start this weekend. A series at Mississippi State. And then next Tuesday night, the Fighting Roadrunners of UTSA come to Austin. Not to jump ahead and look past the first SEC series as a conference foe, but UTSA beat the Aggies. So,
okay, to be fair, everybody's beating the Aggies right now.
Is that an accomplishment at this point?
I'm sorry?
Is beating A&M an accomplishment at this point?
Let's talk about it. So the Aggies started number 1, right, in the preseason based off best talent. They had probably the number 1 overall pick going on their team. And then, they went with the young coach early. They started off hot, but they've lost. They started off 5-0, but since then they've lost to Cal Poly, Texas State, Arizona, Oklahoma State, UTSA, New Mexico State. All these teams have, and some of them went into College Station and beat the Aggies. So they're now with a record of 10-6. They've dropped, at least in this ranking, to 21, but they've dropped below Texas in every poll. I mean, we heard the first night when they beat some school called Elon, and Texas lost their first game. Was it to Louisville? We heard how we were in the dumps and they were the best of everything. And now they're 10-6. And they get to start their SEC season at home against number 17, Alabama. So, I mean, they're going right into it too, just like Texas. So good luck to the Aggies.
You don't mean that. You don't mean that.
I don't
really.
mean that at all.
No,
Get your
I
bubble.
appreciate it.
Get your bubble liquid. What do you call it? Bubble.
Yeah, the bubbles. Yeah, they're known for
Yeah,
bubbles.
I know, but what do you call the bubble soap? Get your bubble soap ready. How are they allowed? I still don't know how they're allowed to bring in big old super soakers into a game. I don't know. I can't bring in an empty water bottle, but they can bring in massive super soakers full of soap. Anyway,
Fair enough.
yeah, they get the Alabama at home this weekend. OU's hot too. Like this is just going to be a brawl this season in baseball and softball. You want to talk a little softball? Anything else about baseball?
I'm just excited. I'm sure Megan, as someone who gets to actually go out there and head out in the Yeti yard and just kind of be among the people. Like, this is exciting. Like, regardless of whether Texas loses some of these games, like, it has to be more exciting for the fans to be watching SEC baseball than Kansas coming in or West Virginia or just like some of these like non-Oklahoma school Big 12 schools. Like, this has to be exciting. So like, I'm just excited for that.
Yeah, that is fair, but you got to be careful now, Danny. I don't know if you saw today, Kansas baseball. It's funny you bring that up. They won a game today, 29-1. Did you see that? It's kind of crazy. They had five straight home runs in a row. And I hate to say this, it was against Minnesota.
He's a Montana guy, right?
You're Montana, but
it's still Kansas. Who cares? Like,
it's still Kansas. I love it. It's still Kansas.
Well,
all right. Well, let's jump into some Texas softball. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Rocky, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I was just gonna. Yeah, if you're ready, we can do Texas softball. So the polls right now have Texas ranked. Let me share this screen. Have Texas ranked number 1 in one poll, and number 2 in 3 other polls. So hanging on up there. What do you think? I mean, it doesn't matter. It's still early in the season, right? And like Danny Davis said about baseball, they haven't hit murderer's row yet, right? Conference play hasn't started yet. So it's still really exciting to be ranked number 1 still after several weeks of play already.
Yeah, I mean, I think the SEC for softball is actually more talented than it is for baseball. I'm actually scrolling their schedule right now, and every weekend they're playing a ranked team, except for Missouri, which is receiving votes. I think every team in the SEC, now that Texas and Oklahoma, that makes 15 of them, reached the NCAA tournament last year. So this is a conference with a bunch of teams. There's not going to be a pushover in this conference. I mean, there may be some series that are easier to win than others, but that's 15 teams that made the tournament, and that's a lot of talents. And Texas is definitely going to be tested. Rankings. It's nice to be ranked number 1 in March, but let's see what this team is ranked in May, or more importantly, June, if the College World Series is in June. I'm not sure when it ends, but let's see what happens actually in a couple months, as opposed to these number 1. I always say this about the Texas softball team. Like, it's nice that they're ranked, but it doesn't matter until you beat Oklahoma in a postseason series that matters. Like, Oklahoma is number 1. I don't care what their ranking is. They're number 1 until someone knocks them off, and that's going to be the hurdle Texas has to get over. And we'll see if they can do it this year in the tournament and finally get Mike White that championship.
Yeah, Texas gets to start their conference play at number 3, Florida. And like you mentioned, scrolling through the schedule, a top 20 Auburn, a top, around 20 Mississippi State. And then they have a top 10 as of now, top 10 Tennessee, LSU. This is crazy. And of course, there's that number 1 ranked Oklahoma. And then a top 25 Kentucky. It seems like every team they play is a top 25 or top 10 team. That's a murderer's row, right? If you hang on and win a few of those series, especially any on the road, that's impressive. But also they're going to, Oklahoma's going to have this crazy tough schedule. We talked about this earlier, SEC schedule, we always think about being outside the SEC. We always think about football, SEC football being the big bad boy or whatever. But now that we're in the SEC, we're like, wait, half the top 10, 15 of SEC men's basketball are SEC. The women are all SEC. The baseball is all SEC. The softball, there's no break. The teams don't get a break.
That's absolutely the truth.
Yeah. Go ahead. One thing I wanted to show, Megan, I was telling you, Tegan Cavan, we'll talk about the picture. She retweeted this post, and I wanted to share it with you and get your thoughts on reading this tweet, because we know she's just been the superstar. She's again pitcher of the week for the SEC, and this was her retweet, repost? I call it a retweet. It's always going to be a retweet to me. All right, it's she posted, one of the hardest things is teaching a young pitcher. They will have bad innings, games, tournaments, and yes, even seasons. And this includes lessons. You can have off days during lessons, just as easy as game days. Don't be so hard on yourself as you learn. It takes time, a lot. She retweeted this.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts when you read that and knowing it's coming from Tegan Cavan, who's at the top of her game?
Yeah, Danny. Love to hear you.
I think it's great that a young pitcher is kind of showing some humility and showing a human aspect of herself, and that shows a lot of maturity. I think Kat posted something a couple weeks ago, pretty much saying that the same thing. After her first couple games, she had a absurdly high ERA, which I don't actually believe, because she was pretty good right after that.
Or something, yeah.
But the lesson was the same. One game, one inning does not define you. I mean, going back to the women's basketball conversation, they had a really bad second quarter that doesn't define their 34-game season. The same thing goes with a pitcher or a football player who has a bad game. And as much as people want to hate a quarterback at Texas, whenever he has a bad game, that doesn't necessarily define their skills or who they are. I think it's good for athletes, especially who a lot of them probably demand perfection, are a lot harder on themselves than we are hard on them, and we're pretty hard on them. I always think it's funny when people are telling an athlete that they had a tough. The athlete knows. These people are their toughest critics. They know they didn't play well, and they're probably harder on themselves than anyone else. So it is a good reminder for people to remember that nobody's perfect. You're going to have a bad game. Someone is going to get the best of you every now and again. It's a matter of how you respond, and it's good that Tegan kind of has in the back of her head, because she's not going to throw nothing but shutouts the rest of the way. Like some team is going to hit her around. Someone is going to hit a home run off her. She's going to strike out a lot more people than get her. But every once in a while, someone's going to get her. And it's good for her to know that it's a matter of how you respond and get back on the horse and all those cliches. But it's good that a young pitcher, she's a sophomore, understands that, because I'm sure the rest of us weren't that mature when we were 19 and 20 years old. I know I wasn't.
God, no. Yeah, absolutely not. No, I agree. I think it shows a ton of maturity for her. And I love that seeing these players put those kind of things out, right? Because we hold them on a high pedestal. A lot of people look up to him. A lot of kids look up to him too. Showing that human side and showing the vulnerability, but showing it's okay to talk about these things, normalize talking about these things. We talked about this a lot during football season, how Coach Sark talks about, normalizing mental health and talking about mental health and taking care of yourself. I think things like this, like that's the proof in the pudding. Seeing these players put that out there and normalize, like, hey, you don't have to be perfect all the time, every day, every single second. That is unattainable, and it's unhealthy to feel that it is attainable, right? So I like it. I think it opens up the conversation, and I think it humanizes them too, right? So I loved it. So yeah, a lot going on with Texas softball. We know that, like we mentioned, they are getting into an absolutely just the gauntlet of the SEC. It's gonna be a lot of fun softball to watch for sure. So check them out. I know that is something at the Red and Charlene McCombs. I got it this time. Red and Charlene McCombs Field.
Good job.
Hey, look at me go. I can never get Red's wife's name. But yeah, all right. So before we jump into that Texas football talk, we do want to take a quick minute to give a shout out to our friend Chuck and let folks know. So if you guys are looking for there's a hill country getaway, you need a little bit of a vacation, look no further than the Rockin' Diamond S Ranch. It's seated on 120 acres in the beautiful hill country near Johnson City, and it's just a quick drive to Austin or San Antonio. The property sleeps 14 with one primary home and 2 fully furnished cabins. There's wildlife watching, there's fishing, you can play with the Longhorns, there's an absolutely incredible indoor and outdoor eating and cooking area, and it's just 5 minutes from downtown Blanco with breweries, eateries, shopping, and more. So again, we've got MotoGP is coming in town. There's a ton coming up. If y'all are looking, spring break even, if you're looking for some time to get away, look no further again than that Rockin' Diamond S Ranch. That is rockindiamondsranch.com, or give our buddy Chuck Smith a call at 512-694-1969 and reserve your Texas weekend today.
All right. Here's the contact info if you want to screen capture that. And you can have it for whenever you need. So we're going to book the venue for a family event, which is kind of fun. I'm excited. So we talk about it. We're going to be about it. We're booking that venue coming up soon. So that's pretty exciting. Yes.
Yay. All right. Good time.
So it's time to talk some Texas football, even though it is off season. So I'm trying to type something in. Even though it is off season, there's still always stuff to talk about. We want to start. We have to start about this. We know that Texas had the embrace the hate. They hate us because they ain't us, blah, 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 all the things, right? I love that Josh Pate addressed that this week this is a quick clip. I want you to listen to this about hating Texas, and is Texas the most hated team in all of college football? Let's listen. Hold on. Let me hit it and let it play.
Let me be the one to break this news to you. When a Texas fan says they hate us because they ain't us, Texas fan is half right there. They do hate you. They despise you at a cellular level. I'm not always sure it's because they ain't you. Some of these folks hate you and would never want to trade places with you. Now look, I'm not speaking about myself, but I talk to the other fan bases out there. Okay, I talked to a gentleman on the street corner in Kylene, Texas. I made several stops in the state of Texas this past week, and so I got a good, healthy sense of the flavor of disdain towards Texas and Texas fans out there. And it's not always them hating you because they can't be you. Sometimes it's just that they hate you. And that is very, very evident to me across the country. No one's indifferent on Texas, and that's before they've won a national championship. So you should always long to be hated. If they don't hate you, you're irrelevant. So it's a compliment to Sark and company that they're hated. Texas has always carried themselves a certain way. Societally, they've always been prone to look down on you. This is just accurate. If you think you're better than someone, that's okay. Just admit it. Texas fans admit it. I at least respect that about you guys. But that causes a lot of folks to hate you. What I was going to say is, imagine if they win a national title. Like, imagine if they win the SEC. Whew. I don't know if you can get higher than number 1, but they could push for it.
All right, Danny, coming in as kind of, not being a Texas Longhorn graduate, or you cover it, but you're an insider but an outsider, right? You're a good balance. What did he say that you agree or disagree with?
Oh, we got you on mute, Danny.
Sorry, I was trying to be polite and not drink with my microphone on.
Okay.
I think everything he said is pretty correct. I mean, I think there is a lot of hatred towards Texas. I think part of it is, the accomplishments of the athletic department. I think part of it is some of y'all are really obnoxious and arrogant. And I think some of it is just, general, the horns down, all that stuff and stuff like that. But it's also, you can't deny it. I mean, you can, I think I said this on Twitter, I mean, you can just do a quick Google search of horns down and there'll be pictures of people from West Virginia to Washington doing it. And that's not just Oklahoma. Like Oklahoma, if this was just Oklahoma and Texas A&M doing the horns down, that'd be one thing. But this is people across the country. I mean, I'm from Billings, Montana, and when Texas loses, I'll get texts from friends talking crap about Texas like I care. But since I cover the team, they feel like they need to talk some smack about Texas losing. And this is people from Montana who root for Oregon or Washington or Notre Dame or random colleges that just aren't Texas. So, yeah, I think people like to hate on Texas, and part of that is envy. I think part of that is, once again, some fans just are a little obnoxious. And if Texas ever wins the national championship, I think I'm going to have to get off Twitter, because I think that is just going to become a complete disaster zone. With I know Megan's not going to be quiet on that website if Texas ever wins a national championship.
Oh no, I'll be insufferable.
I think I'll just have to log off for a little bit, because I won't be able to handle all of it.
Absolutely.
Megan, did you agree with that take, Megan?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yes. I can say this as somebody who's traveled around the country for Texas. Now, I try not to be that arrogant fan, right? Am I proud of my school? Yes. Am I obnoxious about my school?
Yes.
Absolutely. But I try, but I do try to make friends. I love traveling around the country. I love traveling and seeing how other people do it, right? How other people root and how other people are fans. I like that kind of stuff. And my goal is, if I want you to come to Texas, I want you to come to Austin, I want you to come to the tailgate, I want you to have a great time. And then I want our team to beat your butts. And then you go home going, man, I had so much fun in Austin. That's how I look at things. I know that's not necessarily the way things always trend. I certainly know that's not the way every fan is, for sure. But I can't disagree with anything that Josh Pate said. I have mentioned this. It's kind of funny. This came up here. Eric Henry and I were talking at the baseball tailgate recently, and he actually asked me that. He said, is there a lot of hate? How is it, traveling, and do you get a lot of that? And I said, look, you guys travel a lot, as neutral members of the media. You see a lot of things, and you get a good feel for other fan bases. If you want a true vibe for around the country and how people feel, just go somewhere and wear burnt orange. Because I've heard so many places like, oh man, I traveled here. I have some Clemson friends. Went to A&M. I had a great time. They were super friendly. And I'm like, I bet they were to you in that shade of orange. But it's a whole different, it's a whole different ball of wax when you're wearing the Longhorn logo, when you're in the burnt orange. It really is incredible. Now that, the other side of that, I feel like there is undue hate. I guess as a marketing person, I will say I think Texas is one of the best, if not the best, in the nation on branding. I mean, this is even in the down years, right? Even when Texas football was suffering from just not being a very good football program, you still talk about Texas. You still hear about Texas. You still see Texas. The Longhorn is iconic, right? That burnt orange and white is unique. Texas has done a phenomenal job of branding who they are, owning kind of that state, the A&M tried to take it back a few years ago with the "We Run This State," didn't go so well. It's just, as the flagship university, there is a little bit of swagger there. There's a little bit of confidence, but Texas has always done a good job on capitalizing on that, right? And pushing that brand. So, is it all undeserved, the hatred? I think a lot of it's undeserved, as far, as some of it. There's going too far, but I can't say all of it's undeserved. I understand it. I get it. But I think the more that we embrace the hate, the more that we hold it close to our hearts. Like you said at the end, like, if people don't hate you, and if people aren't mad at you, and if people aren't gunning for you, then you've become an irrelevant program. I'd much rather be hated than not thought of at all. So I can appreciate that. I appreciate that. Rocky, how about you? What are your thoughts on it?
I love that. I agree completely. I'd rather be hated than not thought of at all. Texas has really, like Sark, the embrace the hate thing that I mentioned earlier. They're the only team in the country to win every true road game over the last 2 years in college football, because they know when they go into environments, it's going to be hostile. It's going to be loud. It's going to be game day. It's going to be the first time their stadium has sold out in 20 years or whatever. Texas is here. We see it, right? And so they've learned to embrace the hate. It's all good. If they're the most hated program in college football, they must be doing a lot of things right to rile up that kind of emotion from people. And I think when he says, well, it's not at all because they hate us because they ain't us, there are some people that do hate us because they ain't us, and they're not a lot, but there I can name a few who can't be
They
Texas.
do exist.
They can't be Texas. They can't have the media attention. They can't get the TV channels on streaming apps to them. They can't get the money and the donations and the NIL and all the things. And they wish they had it. And that's one of the reasons they don't like us. And they won't say it, but I know some of them, not all of them, a few, they're out there. Anyway, did we bring it back full? So yes, we're obnoxious and awful, and I see why they hate us.
Fair enough.
At least you embrace that part of it.
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
I embrace
absolutely.
it. Like you said, at least we admit it. At least we admit it.
I mean,
He was right about that.
But this is also part of fandom. Like,
Yes.
once again, like, I can get really annoyed sometimes by some fans and stuff like that, but it's also part of what this business is, and that's part of what makes, sports wonderful. Like, it's fun to see fans be this passionate about, something that, they're willing to go fight with anyone who dares, say something halfway improper about the Longhorns on Twitter and stuff like that. But I mean, like, it's cool to see that kind of passion about something. So, yeah, sure. Some of the fans are obnoxious. Some of y'all are arrogant, but you're also good fans. And I think that's one of the cool things about Texas. There's lots of good fan bases around the country, but that's the passion that a lot of people around here have for this athletic department as a whole is cool to see. Even though sometimes, once again, I have to mute my Twitter because I can't handle all of this.
Just have to find your zen to deal with the obnoxiousness. I appreciate that.
All right, so let's dive into the upcoming spring season and Coach Sark had a press conference, media availability, and I think was it Monday, right? And so Monday. And he had some really insightful, this went off for about 40 minutes. He was open to the media and he gave some really key points. So we'll play a little bit of the video, talk about it. I think one of the things that people had been asking a lot about is the no spring game. Like Megan and I had been talking about it. Like we heard other schools weren't going to be doing it for different reasons. Some schools were saying because they don't want their players being poached if they put good stuff on film, but they're buried in the depth chart. They don't, they're risking injury. It's a long season. All the different reasons. Sark gave us a reason. He told us, yes, spring ball kicks off March 25th. They're going to go 3 times a week for 5 weeks. They're going to mix the days up after the first few weeks. He listed some of the players that were going to be injured. We're familiar with Christian Clark and Baxter and the other players, Derek Williams, that will be limited, Vosick. He mentioned those, but he did say there's going to be the Fan Appreciation Day that we talked about on April 26th. So everyone's marked their calendars for that. But he did give the answer of why Texas is not having a spring game for the fans, but instead they're doing a Fan Appreciation Day. So I'm going to play that for you. We can hear it from Coach Sark himself.
Well, I think one thing is important. There's a little bit of a misnomer of why we're not having a spring game. to be clear, the portal opens April 26th. The portal closes April 25th. That's Friday. So we're not having a spring game so people don't tamper with our players. They could go out and catch 5 touchdowns on that Saturday. They couldn't go in the portal anyway. Okay, that's not the premise of what we're doing. People are going to tamper with our players whether we like it or not. That's fine. Hopefully we've built a culture. They believe in the development of the other guys before them in our program, that they feel like this is the best place for them. We're not having a spring game because I got 27 new faces on my roster that I need to take time to develop. And that development starts at the beginning of spring ball, where we've got to really build a foundation of understanding the whys of what we do, from how we practice to the drills that we do, to the foundational aspects of the offense, the defense, the special teams, of where we build and then where we grow from there. Now, the challenge for us as a coaching staff is to grow quickly. That we've got to build the foundation, then we've got to grow, because I do believe we have a talented football team, but we have some youth and we have some inexperience. And I'm really, pressing upon everybody in our program, coaches, staff members included, to take the next step and to develop the leadership that's needed on this team. Because who we were a year ago individually, we've got to be better this year, right? We can't remain the same. So everybody's got to grow, and that's the task that we're challenged with. Because
all right, thoughts on that? Not having a spring game because they need more time to develop the young players on campus. Is that coach speak?
I don't know if it's so much coach speak, but I think I've said this before, and I've used this analogy before in this podcast, but with CDC, but the same thing goes with Steve. Steve gets paid a lot of money. And I am assuming that for the money he has paid, he knows what he's doing. And if he feels that this is the best way to get his team prepared and to use these 15 practices that they get, I'm going to trust that he knows what he's doing. And if he feels that a close scrimmage or another practice is a better way to, prepare his team and get what he wants done out of a practice than some free-flowing, open scrimmage where you have to let everyone play because, the fourth string's running back's parents drove in the weekend, and you don't want them angry, so you give them a couple reps in the fourth quarter. I'm going to assume that they know what to do. These spring games are kind of pointless. I mean, last year Quinn played 3 snaps. Vernon Broughton was getting married in the spring game. Jade was hurt. I mean, I don't think he played at all in the spring game. He went on and won to Thorpe. I mean, the start of the spring game last year was Trey Owens, who didn't play at all this year. That's not saying anything against Trey, but he was a third-string quarterback. And it was good for him to get some reps and all that stuff, but in the end, it had nothing to do with the season. So I think for the most part, these spring games, they are for the fans. It does suck that the fans are going to lose that kind of like sense of community and that weekend where they get to go on Beaver Boulevard and be around their friends and see some people they may have not seen in a couple of months. But let's wait to see what Texas does with this with this fan appreciation day. If you're able to go down and take your kid down to the field and get a picture with Arch Manning, are you going to care that you didn't get a spring game, or are you going to be happy with how things worked out? Let's see how this kind of shapes up, and maybe Texas needs to reevaluate in a couple of next year. But I'm going to trust that Steve and some of these other coaches that are doing similar things around the country kind of know the value of a spring game. And as a media member who hates covering these things, I'm happy with this decision as well. So thanks, Steve. I'm glad I get that Saturday free.
Nice.
Well, we are playing A&M in baseball that Saturday, though, so it's not totally free.
He did.
I'm glad I don't have a very long day that day, because that would have been hell if I had to do spring game in Texas A&M baseball. That'd been my wife may have left me by the time I got home. So
yeah, he did mention
cleared out, kids gone.
Mm-hmm.
When he talked about that Fan Appreciation Day, he did mention it would be a big day on campus, and CDC will have lots going on because they also have Texas Aggies in town for baseball. That's going to be huge. So he talked about, I wanted to ask you about this. Danny, about this NFL mindset. We know we've talked about how, because especially now that the season is going into, 14, 15 games, they're playing so long from late August through late January now. If you keep winning, you're playing till January 20th this year. So he's talked about, consulting with and having his own experience in the NFL, and also still consulting with, his mentors and coaches. How do you make the players last, this long season? And he talked about this year, he's really going to dive into making sure young players get experience early in the first 4 games, so that, they can start getting some, reps under their belt on the field. And he understood the importance of that, but also that mindset of always being creative. And he talked about having creative forward thinking, changing up the staff. The staff changes, how he still wanted people who aligned with, don't say just because we've always done it that way, that's the way we're going to do it. How do you feel about that? Do you see that NFL mindset? And he's approaching this college team as an NFL team.
I kind of think that's coach speak. If I'm going to be honest, okay. I mean, what exactly does NFL mind speak mean? I mean, you have to innovate at any level. I mean, if you're some high school coach, you need to innovate and continue to adapt and change and get better and get ready for long seasons. The college game was the same. Sure, there's some more games added on, but if you weren't doing that in the first place, you probably weren't having a lot of success. And sure, maybe now the 17-game NFL schedule matches up more with the exact length. So maybe you do something similar to help get those guys get those guys ready. But Steve always talks about adapt or die. And I think that goes across the board, whether or not you want to call it the NFL. I think that's just a football. That's just a life mindset. I mean, I'm a journalist. I mean, we got to adapt too. You have to adapt in your fields, whatever you're doing. So. I mean, I think the NFL mindset things was a little coach speak, but if that's the way Steve is choosing to look at it, once again, I think he probably knows what he's doing more than I do. But I kind of roll my eyes a little bit at that concept. But once again, I'm over here talking. I'm not getting paid to coach a football team, so I'll let him do his thing.
Well, at least he did mention that his ego's not so big that if the offense was really needing outside voices, that he could put his ego aside and accept that. He talked about that. We'll see if that happens, because we know with the red zone issues the previous season, they came out this season and they were one of the tops in the country the first few weeks in red zone. But then boom, he hit some SEC defenses, and that ended up being, that Achilles heel again at the end of the season, not being able to execute in the red zone. Right. One of the things he was asked, speaking of the NFL, were his being courted by the NFL, and was that true that he had been, sought after by the NFL, and would he pursue that? And this was what he said about that, which I thought was fascinating, because it's always good to hear it directly from Sark.
Again, I came to the University of Texas. Like I've said this numerous times, but I want to be really clear. Like I didn't come here to put on a hat to say I'm the head coach again. It was a long journey to get back to the seat. And, but I came here, I was very clear in my opening press conference. I've been very clear along the way to win championships. And we've got a lot of unfinished business. And so I wasn't entertaining anything that was beyond making sure I had a really good job here, and I could solidify the job here, and I could hire the best people I could here. I could recruit the best players I could here. To try to go do that. And I'm proud of the work that we've done to go from year one to be a 5-7 football team that had 2 players invited to the combine that had 0 draft picks, to a team, 4 years later that's gone to back-to-back college football playoffs, that's had the ball inside the 10-yard line in both of those games to go compete for a national championship, that over the last 2 years has sent 25 players to the NFL combine. That has a chance to potentially break the record for players drafted in the NFL draft this season. So to watch our team GPA go from a 2.33 team GPA in year one to a 3.27 during the fall season of a team that was 13-3 in the SEC and doing all those things. So ton of pride in what we've done. But the mission's not complete, and I didn't ever want to be a program that was a one-hit wonder, that was able just to do it 1 year and then would fall off. And I think we've built this thing in a way that we've been consistently growing. And we've been growing not only on the field, but off the field.
All right. Thoughts?
I think that was a wonderful non-answer from Steve. I'm gonna be honest. Everything he said, I believe he truly believes. I believe he's here at Texas to win a national championship. They haven't done that yet. I'm sure there's still some things he still wants to do and still wants to accomplish here. But I'm also not naive enough to think that if the right team came calling with the right offer, that he'd pick up the phone and listen. And I don't think any Texas fan should begrudge him if he chose to do that. But at the same time, it's not bad when Texas has given him an extension the last 2 years and kind of giving him whatever he wants with his assistant coaches. And, there's lots of excitement and lots of buzz and a new football facility getting built right down the street and all this stuff. So, I mean, it's easy for him to stay at Texas. Texas has made this a job that's hard to leave. But if, Steve leaves for the NFL at some point because some team just gave him an offer he can't refuse, I don't think anyone should be surprised. I don't think anyone should begrudge him. I'd hope that he'd pick up the phone and listen to those offers and make the best decisions for him and his family. But I also believe that he means everything he says and that he has goals and things he wants to accomplish here at Texas. And he didn't just take this job so that he could use this job as a stepping stone. He probably figured this was a job that maybe his last job and take that into retirement. And there's stuff he wants to accomplish that he hasn't accomplished yet. So he still needs to do that. But we'll see if the NFL comes knocking in a few years. I definitely won't be surprised. He's a talented coach, and it shouldn't be a surprise if there were some NFL teams. If they're rating his coaching staff, it's not a surprise to see that they're also asking about the head coach as well.
Yeah,
Megan, thoughts on that? Not going anywhere?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think, Danny, just to kind of tack on what you're saying, I would be surprised, and he'd probably be doing himself a disservice if he didn't take those calls at the very least, see what is out there. But I do agree that Texas is going to do everything in its power and is one of the few schools that has the ability to really be competitive with NFL kind of money and NFL kind of, I don't want to say prestige, but there's a lot going, Danny, again, like you said, Sarkisian has a lot going for him at Texas. And I think it is certainly, you don't want to close any doors, but UT has the ability, especially if they're going to be throwing all these things at him, DKR is going to grass, getting a new facility. If you've been over by Moody recently, you've seen that whole area is torn up where the child care center used to be. That's going to be a whole new facility for Texas football. I mean, he really has been given the keys and said, look, keep winning and we'll give you whatever you want. That's a hard thing to walk away from with a whole new set of pressures in the NFL. So I agree wholeheartedly that he should take the call if they are coming. He should feel it out. But for the time being, at least, I feel pretty confident that Texas has the ability to at least stay in the running and to keep dangling that carrot in front of him to make him happy. And hopefully, maybe, I don't know, create a Nick Saban situation, win a few championships, you get anything you want and make it as hard as possible for him to want to leave. That would be my thought on it. Rocky, how about you?
Yeah, Texas, he just has the number one recruiting class. He's, even though they had some good, healthy coaching staff attrition, and he was able to bring, Dwayne Akina back to Texas, and he's been able to promote from within some young and up and coming coaches, which he also talked about in this press conference. He started with his coaching adjustments, and then at the end of the press conference, he also talked about media availability. He also talked about, balancing the knowledge and the experience and the personalities and the energies and all the things with a young staff with some veteran experienced staff. So I think this is his baby right now, and he's on a roll, but he understands. I think that it still takes constant, that's what we just talked about. People who hate Texas, they're gunning for you. Just like, people were gunning for Alabama. They're gunning for Georgia. They're gunning for the best of the best of the best. So the better you are, the more they're coming after you. And I think he understands that, like he talked about, they have to keep evolving and changing. I think this is still a really great spot. Some people threw out numbers that he would have to take a pay cut to go coach in the NFL. So, there's that. Anyway, there's a lot to that, and that's a fantastic availability that he had a couple days ago. So it's available on YouTube. People want to go watch it and see the whole thing, but that was pretty good. So a couple other quick Texas football things before we move on to the funnest part of the show, which I think is the funnest part of the show. The top story is just anything and everything that we find that's hilarious and ridiculous that we need to give our opinions on. But let's share a couple more things because I added it to the show. So the new freshman on campus, I'll just show a clip of Jamie French's clip because it's the first one up. But they got to show their little dorms, which I think is still pretty cool for like social media, but also for recruiting, for people to see how they live. Let me show this little clip.
Jamie French here, mid-year 2025 receiver from Jacksonville, Florida. Come check out my career.
Whoa, here we go with another one. Whoa, yeah, here we go with another one.
This is this spot right here. This is where I get comfortable after a long day of practice at school. I come here. Man, being here at the Sandjack is so convenient, man. Right across the street from the facility, man. You want some food, meetings, because like right now I'm on my off day. Just go over to the facility, get some recovery in. And so a lot of guys like to come over, hang out, and we play video games here. We might go to their spot. A lot of competitors, who's better, who's the worst. So a lot of competitiveness going on in the Sandjack. I can't wait to see myself all.
It's so cute. It goes on, and a couple of the new players get to show their new cribs. It's so fun. Being like down when you go down on campus a lot for the media stuff and everything. The players are coming through. What's the vibe of this new young group coming through? There's like they said there were 22 early enrollees already on campus, plus some transfer portal new faces.
It's wild. Yeah.
That's right. It's
Like,
only been 5 years.
5 years in the Zoom thing. I think you could have figured it out by now. But I think it's this vibe you have with any incoming class. I mean, there's always excitement. New is always mysterious. It's always fun. I think the way that college football is now, that pretty much if you're a recruit, you're coming early. You're coming at the semester. It's kind of rare to actually see someone just show up in the summer now and spend their their entire senior year at high school. So when you have the 22 new enrollees, obviously there's going to be a lot of excitement. If there's, I guess, one downside to there not being a spring game is you don't get to see those guys. But whether it's a Jonah Williams, I guess you can go see Jonah Williams at the baseball game. But whether it's Jonah, who's everyone's excited for two sports, or some of these football only guys, like Jamie or Lance Jackson or some of those Justice Terry, some of those guys, obviously there's reason to be excited. We'll see what it is in August if they're all playing and contributing, because that's really hard to play and contribute as a freshman. But obviously, mystery is always tantalizing, and it's obviously exciting to see these new guys get on campus and get to know them, especially since it's a new era. And with NIL and stuff like that, we know these kids a lot more because they're a lot more out there and a lot more on their social media and stuff like that. So people get to know them a little bit more. Because back in the day, these freshmen, you never heard from them. They didn't talk to media. They didn't really have social media to go, make a name for themselves. But half these kids, by the time they get to campus, you know everything about them. So we'll see what they actually look like on the field. But obviously, a lot of reason for Texas fans to be excited.
If you had to pick a player now that you think could be contributing as a freshman, this is a fantastic, of course, the number one recruiting class in the country. If you had to pick a player or two that you think could be an impact as a freshman, who would do you have one?
I think everyone's kind of high on Justice Terry and Lance Jackson. I think those two. I know they got a couple practices in with them ahead of the Peach Bowl. They were hanging out with the team, but you can make an impact. And we saw Colin Simmons make an impact on the defensive line. So we'll see if those guys can kind of step in and make an impact early. But those are obviously two, 5-star guys that we'll see. And Jonah Williams is going to play. That's a really top-rated recruit and not playing a lot with baseball right now. But he's recovering from his injury, and we'll see if that baseball-football thing actually works out for him. But he's here to play football, and we'll see if he how much he plays, but I'm sure he gets right in that mix in that secondary with Derek and Michael and excuse me, some of those returners.
All right.
Yeah.
Megan,
I love that you brought up Island Boy. I do, because I will tell you this, at baseball, man, he is so hyped up. He's down there in the dugout. He's one of the guys that's out there, doing the clap. getting everybody excited, just hyping
You know,
the team up. He's fun to watch.
this is a true story. He almost killed me the other day because I had a friend who was came down for a Tuesday game and was in the stands. I went down and sat with her over kind of by right field, and he's playing catch between innings with whoever was in right field at that time. Maybe it was Baloo or whoever was in right field, and he just wasn't paying attention, or he just wasn't able to catch a ball, and it ricocheted off his glove and went flying into the stands. And so I'm just sitting there just chilling and talking with my friends, and the baseball was like flying by me because he didn't catch it. So I was like, "Come on, man! I want to see you play before you kill me." But I appreciate that.
Well, we gotta have a chance to cover him.
Yeah, I'd like to cover you once.
Megan had a great interview with Oliver Service a few weeks ago, and she asked him about the players and the vibe on the team and stuff, and it was surprising that he mentioned him as like what players are the most exciting or have hyped up or goofy or whatever it was. And it was the true freshman, early enrollee. We're like, what? He already has that much personality that he's, he was the one named as like the outgoing, goofy one. So that shows he's fitting right in, and that's exciting for Jonah Williams.
Some of these freshmen are just different. I mean, you look at the women's basketball team. Who are the two biggest personality on that team? It's Brianna Preston and Jordan Lee. I mean, they're the two main on the bench, throwing every ounce of personality that they've got. So I guess freshmen are just different these days. There's no just hiding in the corner and letting the seniors do their thing. They're showing their personality.
That's all.
So you weren't that guy in college. Were you a loud freshman or a quiet freshman?
I was just trying to survive, man. I was just I was just trying not to get in anybody's way. I was just going to work, going to my dorm, going to class, and trying not to get into too much trouble, which I failed at miserably. But I was pretty quiet.
It's a tough balance coming in with some confidence and excitement and wanting to make friends, but also coming in not trying to act like you know it all when you're the fish, right? Like you still have to, you're coming in with the big dogs, and you have to. It's a tough balance coming into that space because you come from being the big fish in the small pond, right? And then you got to go. You're big time now, and now you're bottom of the barrel again. Your stars are gone. Nobody cares. You're a 5-star. Go pick that up and go carry my bag. That reminds me of Arch Manning. So we're going to talk more next week about Arch Manning. Colt McCoy had a fantastic breakdown of the difference between Arch and Quinn Styles and what he expects to be different with the new offense. And in this media availability, Sark also talked about Arch and coming in with the leadership, the humility, and this work ethic and all that. So next week we'll take time to talk a lot more Arch Manning because there's a lot to talk about and so many thoughts because it's the big, and of course the Uber commercial. Got to talk about it again. All right, so let's move on. We have top stories. We want to get to the top stories. Of course, we always like to start with big things happening for Texas, something Texas athletics, and number one to start the season is the rowing team. Congrats, women, starting the season ranked number one. So hope that holds for the whole season and you're national champions again. That would be awesome. All right, Megan, you had something that you wanted to talk about, and I'm going to share your Detroit Lions. Where could they be going?
I do, quite possibly. So there was a little bit of a teaser from the Lions that Rory, yes, his name is Rory, as in hear the Lions roar, was in Germany recently.
Oh,
this is just about a week ago. Yeah. So I'm wondering if it's not going to be a Detroit Lions. NFL is expanding over to Europe, trying to spread some of the love for American football. Everybody seems to love the Lions. Is it possible that the Lions are going to be playing in Germany this year? So I don't know. I was excited about that when I saw it because I can't think of any other possible reason that you would send your mascot over there. I mean, like literally, can you think of anything else? What reason would he be over there for?
No, only because they're going to play in Germany.
Yeah, that would be my thought. So anyway, Rocky, you up for a trip to Germany?
I'm going to be in Germany in June. In Berlin.
There you go.
But I will not be there for the football game because that's probably not to the fall. All right. Moving on. Southwest Airlines. This was a big deal. Do you fly Southwest a lot, Danny?
I'm very upset. I've been in mourning for the last 48 hours.
All right, let's talk about it. What of this new chart that they released upsets you the most? I talk about it, because you travel a lot. I'm sure not just for work, but also with your family and personal things. What about this Southwest pisses you off the most?
I mean, why would you fly Southwest? I mean, they've gotten rid of every reasonable perk. It's not like this is an airline that you get like TVs or cushy snacks as a first class or some you fly there because they're flexible if you need to change your flights, and you get your free bags. And I know some people hate the open seating, but I don't mind it. I think it's it can be convenient, and it's just like, let's get rid of all that and just make us a budget airline with no perks. Like, if it's going to be the same price now to check bags as it is to fly, Delta or American Airlines, why wouldn't you just fly a nicer airline? Like, I just don't understand what they're doing. They're taking the one good thing about it, the one thing that, like, when I'm putting together a travel budget and I'm telling my bosses why we should fly Southwest, it's because it's like, well, we don't have to pay for luggage, or the flights, if they're flexible, switching flights if I need to come home early or something like that. It's like, I just don't know why you would get rid of one of your biggest perks or something that you're known for, which is the open seating policy. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why are you telling people to go fly a better airline? That doesn't make sense to me.
We've been terrible for a while, but you saved money. Now you're not saving. I have to agree. Like, I feel like Southwest for the long, I mean, it's a cattle car with wings, right? They roll you in, you fight for your seat, but it was affordable. You could go where you wanted, when you wanted. Weren't they the ones that coined the term? Like, didn't they trademark bags fly free? I feel like that was a thing that they did. And now why? Like, their prices have been going up, but yeah, I have to agree, man. Like, I don't see any perk or benefit to flying Southwest at this point.
They
Rocky,
had that
you got
massive
thoughts?
Yeah, they had that massive disaster of Christmas. Was it 2 Christmases ago or something, where they had people stranded for weeks? People missed, all their Christmas holidays. It was a disaster. They recovered from it pretty quickly, because within a few weeks, their flights were still all sold out and still very expensive. But for me, I usually, if I'm flying Southwest, usually when I'm flying Southwest, like local, you're going for a long weekend or for a few days. So I'm not too worried about checking bags, because I don't like to check bag. I will do everything in my life to carry on, because you never know where your bags will end up if you ever get them, or landing and then having to wait for bags. I don't like that anytime. But so I'm not too much worried about the bags. But the thing that I loved about Southwest, and the reason I would fly Southwest, is because you can book a flight months in advance and cancel it if you need to, or change it if you need to, use the credit, or get your money back. Now, if you're looking at this new chart, half the ones aren't even refundable anymore, and it says cancellation, so it probably sits on a credit, but then it says now you only have 6 months to use that credit, instead of leaving it in your account and using it when you need. So Southwest, I say it's going to hurt them, but it probably won't. People are already going to keep booking with them. They're not going to.
But how are they any different than Frontier, which is like the most miserable flying experience ever? How is Southwest any different than that now? I don't see it. I don't see it.
I don't know. Okay, speaking of travel, if you were to tour, Danny, when you first got to Texas, what kind of things did people say, you got to do this, you got to eat this, you got to try this?
I mean, I think Tex-Mex was a thing. I mean, barbecue really wasn't huge when I got down here almost 20 years ago. I mean, it was still a thing, but like Salt Lake was like the premier barbecue place in town. It hadn't hit that craze with the Franklins and the barbecue and stuff like that. But obviously, Tex-Mex, I think Guero's was one of my first like big meals.
Ooh, yeah.
When we moved down here, and obviously that you see my stomach recently. That definitely became a problem over the last few years. But Tex-Mex, as someone who grew up in Montana, that was obviously something that's done a little bit better down here than it is up north.
All right,
the tacos will get you, man.
I came across this video and I almost threw my phone across the room. Watch this.
Hey guys, come with us on a road trip to Waco, Texas. Our first stop was In-N-Out Burger. It was.
Did you hear her?
First problem, they went to Waco, Texas.
Which is fine. You're driving through Waco. Our first stop was In-N-Out Burger. What in the... Who in the world goes to Texas and their first stop is In-N-Out Burger?
People not from Texas. I feel like, if anything, I mean, this is the raging debate, right? Whataburger versus In-N-Out. But all right, Danny, I got to ask you that question: Whataburger or In-N-Out?
Look, I have some unpopular opinions about Whataburger.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I don't think In-N-Out is anything great either. I think Whataburger is extremely overrated, and the reason people like it is because they're Texans, and people are just gonna. It's like that drunk cousin of yours who's a complete derelict that no one else likes, but you have to love him because he's your cousin, and even though he's no good. I mean, Whataburger's fine. It's a fine hamburger, but come on, people act like it's a national treasure and it's anything but. But for the point of the video, I'm sure. Once again, I think these people are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, and I'm sure whoever put that video
it's rage
together,
baiting.
I would say it's for clicks, but it had 7 views, and I don't know how it came on my feed, but this video had like 7 views. I don't even know the person, so it's not like somebody I've watched. Somebody was saying, "Follow us to Texas," and our first stop was In-N-Out. Oh my god, I was shocked. And just furious, and I almost threw my phone across the room, not because she didn't go to Whataburger, but because she went to In-N-Out as her "follow me in Texas." Oh my god! I hope
I'll give her credit for this. I mean, if they're driving, I mean, I'm always amazed by like the food TikTokers and stuff like that. They're like eating barbecue and Tex-Mex in their car.
Everyone needs to eat in their car. Everyone must be in their car with their seatbelt on, filming their big thoughts on everything.
It's a lot easier to eat a hamburger than it is a slab of ribs and some brisket. So maybe she's just being efficient with her driving and eating.
Or doing their makeup. This is the time that anyway. Okay, so moving on. Did you see the story of the track event where the one girl beat the other girl with the baton? Did you see this?
I saw a story about her explaining herself. I haven't seen the actual
tearful explanation.
Here's the actual track attack. I'm calling it. Here's the track attack. She's losing. So she raises her baton up high intentionally. It looks like I have brains and eyes. She's whacking the girl on the back of the head at least twice. The girl grabs her head and stumbles off the track. So this is the girl who beat her. This is what she cried on TV. This was her response.
Just a person by myself. Nobody's going to believe me because I can admit from the video, it does look purposeful, but I know my intentions and I would never hit somebody on purpose.
She knows her intentions. What did it look like to you?
I mean,
it looks like she intended to hit her. How do you accidentally beat the crap out of somebody with a baton mid-race? Danny, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
I feel bad for people who end up having some of their worst moments caught on camera, and that's how they're known. It's not like this young woman is a well-known athlete or is something that's ever going to, have a career that's, when people are going to Google her name, that's obviously the thing that's always going to, pop up. And that's unfortunate. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, you just lose your mind and do something really, really stupid. Nothing she did was acceptable, and I'm not trying to condone what she did, but I do feel bad that that's what she's known for now and what she will be known for now. And obviously, I'm sure, as three of us have all, I'm sure, dealt with some social media backlash in our days, and I'm sure she's going through it right now, and probably some of it's a little deserved, but also I'm sure there's some people who are on there right now attacking her because of what she looks like and not necessarily because of what she did. And that is unfortunate. And I always feel bad when these moments go viral for the wrong reasons, and it's a tough lesson for her to learn. And hopefully, she's able to, make amends with the young lady she hit, and find the help she needs. But these situations are like, I take no joy in seeing a video like that or anything like that. Like it's I don't find that stuff very funny or humorous. Like it's just sad all around. It's sad for the young woman that was hit. It's sad for the the young woman that swung the baton, and hopefully there's some positive resolution somewhere down the road.
I think it needs to start with her taking some accountability, because the several videos I've seen of her, she's, playing the victim herself. She won't admit. It looks pretty intentional to everyone else, but even if it was her worst moment, I think step one would be, the girl has a concussion and possible fractured skull. They say different reports of that, but if I think the step one would be, that was my worst moment. I did it. I did it. And she won't even say she did it when there's video of her doing it. Like that to me is like where she should start.
I think, I kind of disagree a little bit with that. Like,
okay.
Step one, actually my step one would be to tell her to shut up and not talk. I don't think you're helping anything, because the fact of the matter is, with the way that society is and what we are as a human species right now, like she could come out right now and have a tearful apology and say every single thing that you would like her to say, and there's going to be a million people who don't want to hear it and are still going to attack her because that's not what they want to hear. Like there's really, in a situation like this, like nothing you can say that's going to appease enough people to stop the hate. And so perhaps she's getting poor advice. Perhaps this is her truth. Perhaps this is just her lying through her teeth. But I don't think there's really anything, if she was fully apologizing, if she was digging into her story, whatever, that she could say that would appease enough people to make this right. And so sometimes I feel in this situation, even as someone in the media who gets paid to have people talk to me, like I think sometimes you just need to be quiet, not talk, and just hope that stuff blows over in a little bit, because she is not helping herself. But again, if she came out and was apologized, I don't think that'd help either. I think people would still be criticizing her and being hateful and mean, and it would just be different people that would be doing it. So I think sometimes in this situation, less is more, and sometimes you just need to be quiet and not talk.
Yeah, learn from it and try to be better and not do that again. I do, to Rocky's point, I do hope that they reconcile. I hope that the best comes out of it they can. But yeah, Danny, to your point, like I don't know that even that being broadcast would do much for where they're at. But and it was a wild clip. It was I think I like audibly gasped when I first saw it. Like, what is happening? Like, what are we watching? But yeah.
All right, I have one last one. It's kind of funny, and you have children, right, Danny?
I have one very rambunctious 4-year-old.
Okay, if you had a birthday party for your amazing 4-year-old, and say your 4-year-old had a younger sibling, would you say birthday party for the 4-year-old, but also you need to bring a gift for the younger one so the younger one doesn't feel left out? Have you seen this happening nowadays?
Not so much nowadays, but I grew up in a household where, if it was my birthday, like my uncles and aunts would get my sisters and brothers something small so that they didn't feel necessarily left out. Granted, that's family. That's not, a demand from a birthday party or, some, prerequisite to coming into the house to eat some cake. But, it's not that hearing that isn't completely shocking to me, but I'm sure you're about to show me something that completely takes that to a completely different level.
I'll just show you this real quick.
They want a birthday gift for the little brother, even though it's not his birthday. Yeah, but apparently now we also have to provide a gift for the birthday child's sibling, okay? And this mama right here was the one that received that invitation. So her son brought home an invitation from a classmate at school, and, he can't tell it to mom. Mom opens it, probably reads it. It's pretty standard until she gets to the very bottom where it notated to also bring a gift for the birthday child's little brother who's 3 because they didn't want him to feel left out. He also were so nice to also give a gift. I gift ideas. He likes Spider-Man and so forth.
I'm sorry, but at some point, it's not your birthday. If people want to go out of their way, like your aunts and uncles or family, I do that sometimes too. If it's a close family, like, oh, if it's one of my niece's birthday, I don't give a little something to, not big, little something to the other ones just because I'm going to see them. But if you're having a birthday party for your child and they don't even know the sibling and they're supposed to bring a gift for the sibling too, but it's not even the sibling's birthday because the sibling can't learn to wait till it's their birthday.
I will say this much. I'm jealous of the family that sent out that invitation because I'm sure if you have small kids and you're watching, you will agree with what I say right now. Who has room for all these gifts? Like, I think the wonderful thing about Charlie, my son, is a lot of his friends are like, don't bring us birthday gifts to this party because we don't have room for it at our house. That's how we are. That's how we were with Charlie's presents. It's like, we don't have room. We appreciate the thought, but we don't have room for all these toys. So
we're
going
to put all of it.
Not only bring us all more stuff to clutter up our house, but double it because we want to make sure little Johnny's also included. Good for them for having that much space in their house because I know I can do that, but I don't know. At the same time, you don't have to go to the party. I also don't know why this stuff is ending up on TikTok. Like, if you think it's ridiculous, don't go. Like, why are you causing strife between your son and his friend now at school? Like, that's not helping at all. Putting this nonsense on TikTok, but
it's everywhere.
Whatever.
It's pretty funny. I hope it's not a thing. Like, I'm seeing people too going to weddings and getting a bill for their plate or dinner at the wedding. Like, if you can't afford a wedding to feed people, don't have a big wedding. You're going to have guests and then send them a bill for their steak dinner. These things blow me away. I don't know. If you can't afford a wedding, don't have one. That's fine. Get married with the JD.
In that case, I'm against putting the kid and his parents on blast. You can put the wedding party on blast. If some groomer bride is charging the bill, please put that on TikTok. I'm not really on TikTok, but put that on Instagram or Twitter, and I'll be sure to retweet that and repost that because that's ridiculous. Those people deserve to be shamed and bullied.
Oh, there you go. All right. Speaking of shamed and bullied, let's wrap it up. All right. Thank you, Danny, so much for joining us. We know you're busy. We know you're pulled in all directions. You're always being, everybody wants to hear your thoughts on things. So we really, really value. Thank you, Megan, for organizing being the go-to and getting it all organized. So let everybody know, everyone knows how to find you, but let everybody know how to find you, what you're working on, and what you'll be covering this spring and going into the summer and fall.
Trying to remember what my Twitter handle is.
_Danny Davis.
I hate that website. Don't follow me on it. But that's where I am on Twitter. Statesman.com obviously is where you can find all our work. I'm going to be busy the next couple of weeks with the women's basketball tournament starting up, and obviously baseball, doing all the things baseball is going to be doing over the next couple of months. So if you want to read more about women's basketball or baseball, spring football too, I guess that's kind of important around here. Statesman.com. That's where all my words will be at, and occasional tweets. But once again, that website's a dump. Don't follow me there.
I think it's pretty good.
It is definitely changed. It has shifted. But Danny, again, man, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. For all of you that joined along, again, we appreciate you as well. We are, Fire the Cannon. Please be sure to like and subscribe. We are on YouTube at Fire the Cannon Podcast, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Fire the Cannon and the number 1. Y'all, it's been a lot of fun. Danny, once more, we appreciate you. We know you're a busy guy. For tonight, right now, we're going to sign off. I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And y'all?
You're Danny.
I'm Danny.
We got Danny with us.
This podcast, the audio will be available on all your favorite platforms in the morning. We will post it tomorrow morning so you can listen on the road too and not try to get in a wreck watching our faces while you stream on YouTube. But thank you for listening and have a good night. Thanks, Megan. Thank you, Danny.
Yeah, thank you, Danny.